Hi guys, I'm Rachel from Posture Interactive. I'm here to introduce Joe. Joe Halcisak has been developing software since before he even started high school. When the pandemic hit his senior year of high school, he decided to create Ranek Technologies. Later that year, Ranek moved into the Can-Be Innovation Center to help his business expand its reach. Since then, he's created over a dozen commercial apps and websites for local businesses, and his customers have spread across the country. He recently won the Wildcard Award at TechBridge's 20th Annual Business Plan Competition. Give it up for Joe.
Hi, everyone. Like she said, my name is Joe. I recently founded a software development company called Ranek Technologies. Before we get started, if you guys can give me a show of hands, how many of you have ever even thought about creating a business? Had an idea pop into your head and said, oh, that would be a cool business. I would want to do that. Pretty much everybody. Now, out of those people who just raised their hand, how many of you would say that software or technology would be implemented somewhere? You need a website, you need an app, you need something like that to go along with it. Show of hands? So pretty much everyone. Now, when it comes to approaching a developer or approaching someone who is good at making software like this, it's often a time that's confusing. I'm a software guy, and I feel that when I have to look and talk to business professionals, it's often you feel a little bit confused and it's a little bit intimidating. So what I want to do today is talk to you all about how to approach a software developer, the questions that you'll need to have the answers to beforehand, and what information that you'll need to bring to the table to help reduce your costs. So a little bit more about me. I have a computer science degree from Drexel University down in Philadelphia. I've been developing software since, she said, around age 13 when I was just starting high school. And from there, I have worked at Penn Mutual Life Insurance and Comcast at doing software engineering. Like she also said, since 2020 when the company was founded, I've made over 16 apps and 8 websites for customers that started originally just in the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Hazleton area, and eventually I've been doing work for clients that live in Florida, California. It's spread all across the country. I just post my listings on freelance websites and other websites to advertise your services, and people reach out, and you end up eventually growing a network where friends are recommending friends, and before you know it, the ball's rolling and you have lots of customers. So back to estimating the price of your idea and how to basically talk to a software engineer. I want to break this down into 2 sections. The first being common misconceptions, common questions that you may have, and things that people get wrong before they talk about to a software engineer. From there, I want to talk about a little bit of identifying and breaking your idea into building blocks. This is basically the easiest way to determine the complexity of your idea. You know, is this going to be something that a developer can do in a few weeks, or are they going to need to spend a lot of money and a lot of time on your issue? So first, the points of confusion. And this list is very short, but there's a lot of them. The first that you have to think of is my idea even worth building? You know, I'll get an idea that pops into my head one random Tuesday morning, and I'll think to myself, that's a great idea. But the more you think about it, will there actually be customers for this issue? Is this something that people would actually want? Has it already been built already? These are the things that you should figure out before you even consider thinking of taking this to a developer or taking a next step, because you don't want to waste the developer's time, because that ends up just wasting your own money. The next question is, will you need an app or a website or both? Sometimes you get an idea like, I want a dog walking service that you use your phone to book a dog walker. But you don't think, I need a website? Does this need to be an app? You should have this kind of nailed down before you approach anyone professionally. And finally, you may think to yourself, oh, this dog walking app, I want it to do this, this, and this. But what does it actually need to do to get off the ground? And what might you want to push to a later release to save yourself some initial money? Because not everybody has a big bag of cash to set up their idea right away before you're actually bringing in any revenue. So you'll want to separate the must-haves from the wish list items. Next, I want to talk about breaking down your idea into these building blocks. So when you think of an idea, there's many things, there's many components of this website or this app that will actually cost the developer their time and eventually cost you money. So the first thing is, do you want it to connect to the internet? Do you just want this app or website to show static information, maybe that just gets updated once every week by someone? Or do you want it to dynamically update every day, or even people can post messages, things like that? That's going to be one step in level of complexity. From there, do you need database support? Do you need users to be able to log in and post things to your website that it will show? And speaking of users, do you need people to be able to authenticate themselves, make a profile for themselves? All of these things will take extra time for the developer and, again, extra money for your project. Same thing with processing payments. Do you want users to be able to buy things from your website? Do you want them to be able to buy a subscription service on your website? These things take extra time to implement. And same thing with like complex algorithms. An easy example of this is Tinder. Tinder doesn't look like a very complicated app. It just shows you a picture of someone and you say yes or no. What's complicated is, how does it find these people for you? It has to guess what type of people you would like to see. These algorithms may take extra development time and may seem more complex than just, oh, it presents a picture to you. So some more considerations: when you're developing an idea in your head and you want to eventually turn it into a real-life business, the first thing that you have to look at is, do you want to go with a freelancer or a large corporation? In almost all of your cases, and in my case to begin with, freelancers and small businesses are the way to go. They're significantly cheaper, and you may get a more personalized response from them, because instead of managing 1,000 customers, they're just focused on maybe your website and maybe a couple other websites. But you'll have priority support and priority engagement with that developer. Next up is designed by you versus designed by the developer. This means when you come to a developer, do you just say, I have a dog walking app idea, and do you just want the developer to run with it? Or do you say, here's all of the components of the app, here's what I want the home screen to look like, here's what I want the user page, and maybe you come with sketches or mock-ups. This will save you a lot of money, because if any developers are out there like me, I'm not super creative. If I have to sit there and say to myself, geez, what should this home page look like? What should this page look like? That's going to cost me a lot of time, and in turn, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if you show up and do some of the work for me and tell me what you want the home page to look like, it's easy for me to just say, okay, here's your sketch, I can turn that into code. And that will end up saving you money down the road. So the next thing you have to remember is that changes aren't free. If you come to a developer with a list of things that you want, and you maybe show them what the home page looks like, and you show up and now they develop the app or they develop the website, and 2 months down the road, you say, oh, you know what, I really don't like the way that homepage looks. Can we change it again? A developer's not the Salvation Army where they can just hand out charity work and give you a change for free. That's going to cost them 6 more hours of work, and it's going to cost you 6 more hours of paying them. So you have to think ahead and remember that changes aren't free. Along with that, apps and websites are living, breathing things that they need maintenance. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be new software updates to your phone, to things like that, that your app and website will need to adapt to. An app or a website that was built back in 2008 probably isn't running successfully right now. Things change, and you need to keep up with that. And while those seem like little costs, they could eventually work their way up to bigger costs, or things that you have to at least keep in the back of your mind. So in general, I kind of use this formula to let people know how much a project will cost when you're thinking about developing or creating a business idea. So I think of this in form of a taxi. Many people probably don't even remember how taxis work, but when you call a taxi, there's always a base fee. It's like $1 to get in the car, and then maybe 50 cents for every mile that taxi drives you. That's a little bit of how development will work. To get into the door and to get a conversation with a developer and get your project underway, there may be a base fee of $250, $500, whatever it may be. This is basically so no matter how small your project is, the developer has an amount that they want to make. Then you have to consider all the time. This may be a quoted amount at the beginning. The developer will say, this project is going to take me 60 hours, and here's my hourly rate. but you'll have to count in all the time. So if you can cut out some of the design work that they may have to do, or some of the development work by maybe providing a little bit of an example of what you want the page to look like, that will save you money. Again, we said change requests and upkeep. And this will all seem like tiny charges at the beginning, but if you start having multiple websites or multiple apps and you need to maintain a database, these charges and things like that will add up. So it's important to keep that in the back of your mind while you're going. And so finally, my suggestions, I was in your shoes just a couple of years ago, starting out with business ideas and moving along like this. The things that I think is most important is talk with other people. You can't go at something like this alone. I tried, it doesn't work. So you gotta talk to people. And they don't have to be people your age. They don't have to be kids. They don't have to be high school students, college students. You can talk to full-grown adults who own businesses, who own a marketing agency, who own other types of businesses that may be able to help you. If you just ask, a lot of times people will be willing to have a conversation, point you in the right direction. Things like that help. Some of the people that could help and have helped me are here today. So if you see someone and you know that they have marketing experience, don't be afraid to ask them, send them an email. People are much more willing to help than you would initially think. And the next thing that I want to point on is the fact that you may not succeed on your first idea, and I would highly bet that you don't succeed on your first idea, not to ruin anybody's hopes, but it takes 5 ideas, 10 ideas, till you get one that finally gets the ball rolling. So don't be afraid to plow through ideas. Like, focus on an idea for a month, and maybe you realize this is a crappy idea. Throw it away and just get to your next idea. If you're creative enough and if you're determined enough, you'll eventually discover one that works. A lot of times, your first idea, you'll think, oh, this is the golden egg right here. This is what's going to make me millions of dollars. Not really. You're going to get through a bunch of ideas, and then you'll eventually find one that will help make you money. So that's all the advice that I have today. If any of you have any questions, I know I went a little bit under time, so we have plenty of time if anybody has a question or wants to talk really about anything. I'm open.
Great presentation, Joe. Oh, sorry. Okay. So my question for you, as an entrepreneur, what has been your greatest challenge and your greatest success?
So for me, the best success that I have is working to my strength. I know how to develop software. So when I get an idea for an app or a website in my head, I can make the actual app. I can make the actual website. My greatest struggle is everything after that. That includes marketing the app, getting the word out about the business idea. Things like that are my weakness. So for a lot of you, it'll be the exact opposite. You're interested in being business students. Your great strength will be after you have the product, you'll be able to market it and you'll be able to advertise it to the public. Mine's the exact opposite of that.
All right, we have an online question. It said, what's your process for getting to an initial estimate for a new project with a client?
So the best estimate that I give clients is I try to account for and relate the project at hand to things that I've already done. If I've made a website that's kind of similar, I keep notes of how long in hours that it takes me to develop this project. So if I know that you're coming to me with a website idea, I will relate it back to a project that I've already done. I'll add in my base cost, and then I'll charge for so many hours. If I think that this project is going to take me 60 hours, I will times that by my hourly rate, and that's the rough estimate cost that I will give clients. And I'll explain to them that, change requests, if I get halfway through and you change your mind, that may cost me an extra 5 hours of development work and therefore cost you a little bit of extra money. And then, of course, there's a little bit of base costs, such as if you're hosting a website, you're going to need to buy that domain name, things like that. I also explain and add in, and eventually you come up with a base total, and usually it's a pretty close estimate to what your final cost will end up as.
What are some of the pros and cons of going to a software engineer to build a website versus using a platform like Squarespace?
So there's a couple different pros and cons. If you're just making, a blog website or something super simple, you may be better off just going to Squarespace. It'll cost you $12 a month or something like that. But if you're trying to look at more complex sites where you want to maybe have somebody log in and make posts or do other things like the dog walking app that we said, the more complex ideas that you get, the more you should lean towards a software engineer, because those sites like Squarespace and Wix and WordPress are made for the average everyday person to go on and make a very basic website. Maybe make one for your local Little League to advertise when the games are. Things like that. The more complex you get, the more you should rely on somebody who has gone to school for this or maybe has professionalized in this and may be able to help you out better.
Great. We have another online question, and it's, what's your first step when entering an initial talk with a client about a new project?
So for the most part, it's all of these things, these common misconceptions and things like that that I've talked about, most people don't know these. So the first time I'm talking to a client, it's mainly trying to root out all of the things that I talked about today. Do you need an app or do you need a website? Well, what's that going to have? Do you need users to make accounts? Do you need payments? I try to narrow that stuff down right off the bat because it will give me a better idea of how complex of an idea are we working with here. Is this something that should be simple and I could do in a couple weeks, or is this something that's going to take me a good 2 or 3 months to do and therefore take a lot extra money and development time?
Do we have any other questions in here? I might not be able to reach all the way to you.
So what do you feel is the role of no-code or low-code solutions, and can they be incorporated into the development process to lower the cost of custom development?
So that's a good question because I actually have a website and an app that they're the same platform and they work together. The website portion, I use a no-code solution, which is basically drag and drop. It's a Wix website. That's because that portion of your app and platform in general is more static. It doesn't really change. It's just there to advertise a lot of the app's features. The app itself is completely custom. You have users uploading and downloading photos, giving comments, leaving likes, saving things to their camera roll. That stuff is more customizable. That stuff needs to be hard-coded by an actual software engineer because that's not really something that you could go out and just drag and drop and set that up yourself. So if you can divide your project into the easy stuff, the easy drag and drop programming, and this portion or this aspect of your platform has to be more complex and more hard-coded, then you may be able to save money by kind of blending both. But it's sometimes difficult. If you have a full complex project, you'll have to find where that line's drawn. And you will be able to eventually save yourself some money if you try that way.
I got a question. So how long was your longest project?
So I built one app. It's a photo sharing app for when you show up at a wedding. It basically leaves you QR codes on the table and you scan those codes, and everyone at the wedding now can share the pictures that they take that night together to one gigantic group photo album. And that took probably around 6 to 8 months from start to finish, because at that time, and I can't say it was 6 to 8 months of me working eight hours a day, 40 hours a week on it. It was a side project. It was a personal app for me. So while I was taking classes and while I was doing work for other people, I would maybe work on it 1 to 2 hours a day. And it took about 6 to 8 months to complete because it kind of would get pushed under the rug at times. If I developed it full time, I would say it would take around 3 months.
Anyone else?
What's your best advice for somebody that's looking to become a software developer or a software engineer?
The amount of software engineering that you can learn just by doing. There's YouTube tutorials. That's how I learned. I was in middle school, my last year of middle school, going into high school, and you can just Google anything. Just start Googling. You want to make an iPhone app? Just Google or throw it in YouTube how to make a very basic iPhone app. There's thousands of tutorials out there. You download the program on your computer and just start screwing around. Just make an app that just says hello when you open it. It doesn't have to be anything complex, but then if you make an app that says hello when you open it, now you can try and make an app that lets you take a picture. You can evolve from there and keep going. Just start small. Just learn by doing. If you want to learn a different language, just Google it, look at the documentation, try it out, grow from there. And of course, you can learn more on the internet than you can even learn from taking some high school classes or some college classes. If you want to do it as a side gig or something like that, you can easily learn without ever taking any type of formalized education on software engineering.
The end of the leash. You mentioned integration of payment capabilities into the apps. Maybe talk a little bit about that, because that can be kind of daunting when you think about the regulatory environment. And is it cash? Is it credit cards? Is it other things that people used to pay with now? Maybe talk a little bit about how you integrate payment capabilities into different apps.
Sure. So when you decide that your app needs some type of payment, and this can be to purchase something in the app, whether it's a subscription or a product, or if on your website you want to be able to sell things, this is actually a lot less intimidating than it really seems. It seems like it's going to be super complicated. How am I going to deal with taxes? How am I going to do all of this? And it's actually a lot simpler because of companies like Apple and Google. They handle a lot of the work for you. If you're putting an app on the App Store, all the in-app purchases, those payments go directly from the consumer to Apple and then directly to your bank account every 2 weeks. You get a paycheck from Apple almost like you work there. Same thing for Google. And when you're on the web, you can set up PayPal buttons where someone purchases directly from your website, PayPal sends you an email, and in 2 days, the funds are in your account with that person's shipping address, so you'll know right where to ship them whatever type of product that you send. A lot of these companies like Apple and Google and PayPal, they'll manage the sales tax for you. They'll manage all of that extra work for you. So while it seems a little confusing and a little bit daunting at first, a lot of that issue is taken care of for you.
I have a question. You said that you have to go through a few ideas. Did you have any ideas that you thought were going to be your $1 million idea that ended up being nothing?
I think I could count more ideas that went flat than ideas that actually worked out. It's one of those things, you come up with an idea off the top of your head one day and you kind of just write it down or you think about it, and then what happens is the more you think about it, the more you realize, oh, that's not really going to work. I've had apps. I had an idea for house. You could post if your house was going to be giving out candy for trick-or-treating, so people wouldn't have to walk around and ring all the doorbells of the houses with their lights off. Little like dumb ideas like that. You sort of think of them, you run them through your head. You're like, oh, maybe that would work, and then you're like, no, it wouldn't work. So yeah, don't be afraid to come up with an idea, run it through your head really quick, and then realize that's not going to work. So it happens a lot more than you'd think.
So what are the other costs of hiring someone like full-time instead of like on commission or a freelancer? Like how, what are the other costs associated with that full-time?
So when it comes to freelancers and hiring a developer full-time, if you have a company and you want to hire someone full-time, of course that's going to come with a little bit more cost, because you have to understand when you've reached the point that your idea is going to need enough development work to actually have enough work for someone to work full-time. I know I said work a lot in that sentence, but if you had somebody there 40 hours a week at your company that maybe your app only needs basic updates because it's already built, you may need a full-time person to get that off the ground, and then you can have them just work part-time 10 hours a week to upkeep the app, upkeep the website, make updates to it, and things like that. So when you're thinking of a full-time employee, and this is where it gets tough too, you have to build a product before and spend all that time and money and effort to build an app, and it won't make you $1 until it's out on the App Store, until it's out on the Google Play Store. So that's why it's hard to get a full-time developer right off the bat, because usually you're super low on money. After the fact, then once your app's already out on the App Store, it's already built, so you may not need a full-time developer. And then you're blessed with, if your idea is lucky, you're getting income coming in. So by the time you're able to pay a full-time developer, you really might not even need one.
Really great. We have time for one more question if anyone wants. All right.
Alrighty, thank you, everybody.